In the quiet town of Richmond Hill, the chilling case of Christine Jessup's mysterious disappearance and the emergence of cryptic symbols gripped the community. Fear and uncertainty paralyzed the residents until a brave few decided to confront the malevolence behind it all. Unraveling a tale of betrayal and greed, they uncovered dark secrets that shook the town to its core. Join us as we delve into the twisted and haunting events that forever changed Queensville, reminding us of the fragility of safety and the darkness that can dwell within even the most tranquil places. Hi, and welcome back to our channel. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, as it helps us motivate to create more intriguing content for you. Let's have a look at the most twisted case you've ever heard. In the quaint town of Richmond Hill, where the winds of fate often blew with gentle indifference, an event occurred that sent tremors through the very foundations of the community. It was October 1984, a time when innocence was still considered a priceless treasure, and the world seemed both vast and mysterious. At the center of this tale stood Christine Jessup, a 9-year-old enigma with an extraordinary spirit. Her presence, a testament to the miracles life occasionally bestows upon the deserving, was a source of joy and concern for her devoted parents, Robert Bob and Janet Jessup. Their journey to parenthood had been arduous, marked by struggles and heartache, until destiny smiled upon them with the gift of a daughter they named Christine Marion Jessup. Christine was a paradox of sorts, a child with undeniable grace and wisdom beyond her years, yet still possessing the wonderment and fascination of youth. Her dreams of becoming a veterinarian, fueled by an unyielding love for all creatures great and small, were a testament to her tender heart and unwavering determination. But fate, ever capricious, had a cruel twist in store for the Jessup family. Burdened with a secret kept hidden like a precious jewel, Janet Jessup's daily routine revolved around meeting her daughter after school, showering her with love and attention, a lie that shielded the truth of her husband's incarceration for financial fraud in a faraway prison. On that warm, fateful afternoon, as the sunlight cast its gentle glow upon the world, Christine eagerly rushed home, clutching her new recorder in hand. Unbeknownst to her, this ordinary day would soon be etched into the annals of history as a turning point for the town of Richmond Hill. Alas, life's most poignant moments often arise when least expected. When the shadows of evening descended and the familiar walls of her home failed to resonate with the warm embrace of her mother's presence, an uneasy feeling nestled in Christine's heart. Even Freckles, her loyal canine companion, could not quell the gnawing anxiety. As the minutes stretched into eternity, the unsettling silence was broken only by the distant echoes of a busy signal. The weight of uncertainty bore heavily on Christine's young shoulders, urging her to seek solace in the simple familiarity of bubble gum from the local store. Returning home, she found her cherished bicycle, its once vibrant spirit now contorted and broken, mirroring the shattered tranquility of the Jessup household. A peculiar sight greeted her as her jacket hung mysteriously on a high peg, beyond her reach without aid. The echoes of her family's call went unanswered, and Harold, her dear pet frog, had not a trace to offer. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Queensville, an eerie sense of anticipation hung in the air. The townspeople gathered for dinner, their minds preoccupied with one pressing question: where was Christine? Janet, Christine's anxious mother, tried to remain hopeful as she glanced at the clock ticking away the precious hours. Yet with every passing minute, her fear intensified. By 7 p.m., the agonizing uncertainty became unbearable, and she knew it was time to involve the authorities. She had scoured every inch of the neighborhood, but Christine remained elusive, raising concerns that something was amiss. When Janet made the call, the surgeon on the other end sensed the gravity of the situation. Instinctively, he dispatched a police car immediately, driven by an urgency that echoed through the night. Word of Christine's disappearance spread like wildfire, summoning the Queensville Fire Department and dedicated volunteers from neighboring areas. Together, a united force of worried souls combed the landscape in an unprecedented search effort. From fields to graveyards and the dense forest below the hill, their determination knew no bounds. Canada had never witnessed such a spectacle of communal action. The detectives worked tirelessly, attempting to piece together the puzzle of Christine's disappearance. Theories floated around, speculating that she might have sought refuge with her incarcerated father or overstayed at a friend's place. Yet each hypothesis fell short of explaining her vanishing act. Unexpectedly, a neighbor, Christine's 24-year-old playmate, took the detectives by surprise. When the officers knocked on his door, he anticipated a complaint about his construction work, but the reality proved far more shocking. He voiced his hunch that Christine might be missing, and as fate would have it, he won the unsolicited bet with his father, Alphonse. An unsettling realization dawned upon Alphonse. His son's casual speculation had hit close to home, as Christine was, indeed, nowhere to be found. As the investigation unfolded, the entire town's attention turned to Christine's disappearance. Everyone was on high alert, fervently searching for the young girl. However, amidst this collective effort, one peculiar pair of neighbors, the Morays, chose to remain secluded within the confines of their home, casting shadows of doubt on their intentions. Detective John Nashe, a seasoned investigator, broke the heart-wrenching news to Christine's father, Bob Jessup. Struggling with a sense of helplessness, Bob found solace in the support of fellow inmates who pleaded for his release so he could reunite with his missing daughter. The next day, a new lead emerged. A hate letter received by Christine's friend, Leslie, brought forth the possibility of a school rivalry driving her disappearance. With a resolve to find answers, the agents delved into the corridors of Christine's school, where street-proofing training had been given to all the children. However, secrets and lies unfurled, transforming the once peaceful institution into a chaotic hub of fear. As the hours ticked by, Detective John Shepard observed a profound shift in Queensville's atmosphere. Parents clung to their children, fearful for their safety, while the weight of uncertainty bore heavily upon the town's shoulders. Different ideas were formulated based on what happened when Christine went missing. According to one idea, Christine saw an adult and fell off her bike because of it. Did a stranger cause her to fall off her bike? Did she do it without thinking because she saw a familiar face smile at her? The time window was very limited. The killer either had luck or possessed an in-depth knowledge of the family's routine. No one had asked for payment so far, and although unlikely, it was not impossible for a crazy person to kill someone. On October 3, 1984, 4 phone calls were made to the Jessup home by people who hung up without saying anything. At this time, everyone was suspected. Investigators suspected that one of Ken's friends harbored a sinister desire for the young girl, so Ken was asked to provide a list of the names of his friends. Bob's departure heightened their alertness as it contributed to the case's mystery and raised concerns about whether Christine had been abducted by someone aware of Bob's absence. Could one of the other prisoners have taken Christine to get back at him? Did the missing person have any involvement in the fraud that resulted in Bob's imprisonment? The search for Christine had reached a dead end until the York Regional Police received a tip from a nearby town regarding a troubled teenager named Dean McPhail, who was known for carrying a knife. He tied up a woman, exposed himself to 2 girls, and hurt a 10-year-old boy in his past. In addition, McPhail worked as a gravedigger at the Queensville Cemetery for a short time, providing him with numerous opportunities to observe Christine's movements. The cops were told by his probation officer to consider him as a suspect, but things did not turn out that way. Janet's father, Gordon Simpson, and his new wife, Hilda, took their own granddaughter because they were worried about how Janet was raising Christine while Bob was away. Another idea suggests that they took the child due to concerns about Janet's parenting during Bob's absence. Janet was always being followed around by Hilda, who criticized everything she did. The strangest things were always said by her. Hilda's statement upon the Jessup's relocation to their Queensville home, that something terrible would happen to Christine in this house, caused many individuals to suspect her involvement in Christine's disappearance. Later, her friends informed her about something else they were aware of regarding her. It was said that she frequently spent time with boys until late at night and occasionally accompanied them on their way home at 9 or 10 p.m. Christine informed her friends that she was in a relationship with an older boyfriend. The cops were told something different by Janet. Detective John Nashe was surprised by how calm Christine's mother was when he went to see her. She greeted without asking any questions about leads. The detectives received an observation from Wally Robson, Bob's brother-in-law. He stated that Janet seemed indifferent to the situation, implying that something was amiss. Recognizing that people grieve in different ways, the detectives withheld their personal opinions and refrained from disclosing their thoughts to the public. Sally Browning, a family friend, mentioned that Janet had been using Valium to calm her nerves after her mother's passing. Janet, despite losing her daughter, appeared composed and continuously reassured that Christine was safe and sheltered in a building in the woods, confidently stating that she would come back home soon. Some community members speculated that Janet's behavior was a tactic to secure Bob's release from jail. However, on October 6, 1984, after a brief 3-day incarceration, Bob was released on humanitarian grounds. Over time, the townspeople and Bob himself started questioning the mother's apparent lack of concern for her missing child. Bob affirmed that Janet would never intentionally harm anyone and defended her. Queensville had never been so busy before. Various reports of strange occurrences in the area were received within a few days. Sandra and Bruce Horwood sent the first one. They saw something scary while driving. A man driving a greenish-blue car held a fighting child under his arm. They considered following the car, but ultimately chose not to because he could have been a parent. A white, off-white, or silver car was seen by people all over town around the time Christine went missing. 3 boys searched for Christine on a country road outside of Newmarket and provided the police with a helpful tip. They were approached by a 25-year-old guy driving a silver Datsun who pulled up next to them and offered assistance with a searchlight on his dashboard. The mud covered his car and emitted a terrible smell. He ducked down and ran away quickly when he thought a police car was coming toward them. The car looking for Christine was not a police car, it was just another car. The agents were disappointed that they could not uncover any additional information about this mysterious man. 2 curious kids found a diary in a rundown barn during the investigation. They were given a small bit of hope. A friend accompanied Mike Lundgren, Jessup's neighbor, as they went to check out the barn. Inside, they discovered something reminiscent of a horror movie. Rusty pulleys and chains were scattered throughout the area, and a fishing line had been used to create a massive spider web that was almost large enough to ensnare them. The creepy feelings they had come from the mysterious writing on the walls. When they saw the phrases, witnessed the bird's disappearance, and read the hidden words, it all felt very spooky. After finding a man who lived nearby, they rented the farmhouse as their new place of residence. He claimed ownership of dairy and stated that an artist had painted those words on the walls for his lost love. Everyone was overshadowed by a dark cloud of suspicion. Philip Brennan, a guy accused of doing horrible things to his own family, was present. He was troubled by his wife's daring act of sharing the claims about his wrongdoing with their 5-year-old daughter. The police searched his house and discovered disturbing adult material, but his alibi appeared to be valid. However, the worry persisted. The investigation into Christine's disappearance stalled, causing Bob Jessup to become increasingly upset. When he was cleaning out his shed one day, he found a clue, and he had no idea. By accident, he stumbled upon a folded piece of paper. Upon closer inspection, he noticed that the object in question was a map. The map appeared to be roughly drawn, yet still easily understandable. He was shocked to see that it led to his own house. He followed the weak lines with his eyes as they led east for many kilometers to a part of the Durham region. Right away, Bob called his wife, Janet, and they both attempted to decipher the meaning of the map. It was finally figured out that it ended very close to the house of Hector Drummond, an old family friend of Janet's father who visited the Jessup home 3 or 4 times a year. Janet's mother used to say that Hector was a member of the Odd Fellows and that he liked dressing up in women's clothes. As time progressed, she grew more at ease in his presence. After looking at the map, Janet and Bob realized they had to uncover the truth themselves. A notepad was on the table at Hector's house when they went there. Bob was shocked to see thin lines of the same map when he looked at the pad in bright light. Despite being a family friend, Hector Drummond remained a suspect. The cops carefully investigated him, but ultimately they did not find any evidence linking him to Christine's disappearance. In a case that appeared to be filled with false leads and dead ends, the map was just another strange occurrence. On December 31, 1984, in Sunderland, Ontario, which is about 100 kilometers northeast of Toronto, Fred Patterson witnessed something strange happening in a nearby field as the sun rose. A German Shepherd and a stray Great Dane were both running around and barking every now and then. James Cull, a high school vice principal from Toronto, owned the field north of Patterson's house and south of the 4th Grant. Patterson had heard the dogs bark for a long time. He finally gave in and brought his 2 girls to the area to check it out. A worn path was found by him, which led to a garbage pile, but what he saw next shocked and confused him. He immediately thought that teenagers had played a mean-spirited joke by dressing up a pig's body in clothes. He saw the feet and immediately recognized who it was. One of them had a white sock on it. A child's body was found in a field. Someone could have killed themselves or someone else could have had bad luck. The Pattersons would have heard about Christine's disappearance unless they were cut off from the rest of the world. Patterson's young girls were aware that they had discovered something that thousands of people had been searching for over 3 months. Without hesitation, Patterson sprinted back to his house and immediately dialed the Durham Regional Police. When the child's bones were found, even the most experienced detectives felt a sense of unease. As they examined the skeleton, it became evident that the upper body had deteriorated, leaving behind only bones. However, the scene had something even scarier about it. The child's legs were positioned in a way that did not make sense, spread apart and bent at the knees. The way the victims were left resembled how Albert DeSalvo, the notorious Boston Strangler, left them. Another thing added to the mystery of the act. A possible fight was indicated by the strewn about blue clothes, the pair of blue pants, and the left-behind running shoe. While carefully searching the area, the police observed another crucial thing. A brown pouch was noticed by them. The all-lost number 202 recording was snugly fitted inside. The words Christine Jessup were on the label. Meanwhile, they were finding more proof further away. Careful handling and tagging ensured that buttons, a plastic drinking glass, and everything else could tell their stories. The other investigators noticed something strange as John Hilston Smith, the head pathologist for Ontario, looked at the body parts. The remains of the head still had a lot of hair stuck to it, despite the body being dead for a long time. Their attention was caught by the chain, which had a few hairs stuck in the dried skin around it. One of the others was darker and had a different width. Smith checked the dental records to confirm her identity, but noticed that her teeth had turned pink. In order to determine if she had drowned, Smith ordered a diatom test. However, the results lacked clarity, and the abundance of diatoms led Smith to suspect contamination in the test. Smith thought the test was wrong because there were so many diatoms around. A match was found in the records of Christine Jessup's teeth. The officers went to Reverend Bev Hall and her husband's house before they told the Jessup family. When she opened the door and saw the detective standing there, she knew what had happened. Detective Nasha informed her about the situation and requested her presence in the room with Christine's family during the announcement. When Bob and Janet saw the police and the Reverend in their driveway, they thought to themselves that it must be the moment they feared. Janet kept asking why and where Chrissy was. Bob simply wanted to know if his little girl had suffered. While examining Christine's body, the medical experts observed discolorations on her skull, which Smith noticed. She had taken not one but 2 hard blows, as indicated by these marks. She sustained the injuries before her death, and either a sharp item or a fall caused them. Could someone have used a club, a bat, or another object? He was unsure, but he knew that Christine was still alive when she received the final blow to the head. While sifting through the dirt, he could not help but focus on a rib that had a deep cut from a sharp object. He observed additional ribs, each of which bore small cuts inflicted by an exceedingly sharp cutting edge. The cause of death was becoming increasingly clear. Christine was brutally stabbed by someone. Explaining why the upper body had broken down so quickly was best done in that way. To say the least, the clues at the scene were strange. The number of differences and problems exceeded the number of solutions. The buttons at the scene did not match the color of Christine's shirt, and some buttons were missing. Christine's grandma stated that they could not find the blue sweater. A gray turtleneck sweater was being worn by her. Jessup claimed that Christine had never owned anything like it before. It was evident from the clothes she wore that someone had kept her elsewhere prior to bringing her to the crime scene. The police found bodily fluids in her underwear. The killer changing the victim's clothes at the scene did not make any sense. It appeared that another attack had likely occurred elsewhere. They knew they had to keep looking to find out what was going on, because nothing made sense. The case took a chilling turn when the search for the murder weapon proved unsuccessful. A human rib and a spine were later found during a search of the area. Lydia Robinson claimed to have heard screams coming from the area where the body was found. She recalled an incident that occurred on a night in early October, around 10:56. She heard voices pleading for assistance. The voice sought help with a deep sense of sadness and desperation. Lydia initially perceived the incident as a random occurrence and did not attach much significance to it. However, she heard a child crying out loudly, indicating distress or trouble, approximately 30 minutes later. Immediately, she contacted a local TV station and requested their assistance to report what she had heard. As time went on, the voice cried out for help persistently, becoming more desperate. By carefully listening, she determined that the sounds were coming from the south or west direction. Doug Barnes and Sharon Risborough were the only ones who owned a house in the area during that period. However, any instances of family disputes at their residence had never been previously heard of by her. Until a car departed from the vicinity, the screams and cries of a child could be heard. Haunting facts and a trail of people who could have done something but did not are behind every crime. For a long time, the case made no progress, but the discovery of the body in the Durham region sparked a glimmer of hope. The York Police transferred the case to the Durham Regional Police, and Inspector Robert Brown assumed control. Inspector Brown and his team of agents desperately wanted to find answers, but all their leads had turned cold. They were making every effort to move forward. Then, on February 14, 1985, they decided to speak with Christine's mom in order to inquire if she had any knowledge about the person who might have harmed her daughter. At first, Janet, Christine's mother, did not have a name to provide the police with, but they persisted without giving up. To figure out what was going on, they needed only one name. Janet, after being prodded, stated that her neighbor G. Palmore was a peculiar individual who played the clarinet and raised honeybees. Alphonse and Ida Moore gave birth to G. Palmore in 1961, a private family that prioritized privacy above everything else. The good neighbors were always happy to help out and were known to be reliable. Could this quiet, modest man really do something so terrible? G. Palmore's actions did not seem to worry the detectives. However, he had a valid excuse. He had worked at a furniture factory located 57 kilometers away from the crime scene. The detectives discovered that he departed work at 3:32, indicating that he was unable to reach home prior to 4:14, a time that occurred well after Christine's parents arrived at 4:10 p.m. The police kept looking into Palmore and asked why he had not helped look for Christine the night she went missing, despite having an alibi. Palmore stated that if the Jessups had asked, he would have been happy to help them. He had been busy helping his father put down weeping tiles around the base of their house. He believed that the addition of one more person would not have a significant impact as the entire town was already searching. The agents asked Palmore about his thoughts on Christine to find out what he thought of her. Palmore described her as sweet and innocent, but she frequently spoke her mind without filter. When he said that sometimes they turn out to be crooked, he made a mistake. The agents interpreted this seemingly innocent comment as a potential motive for the person's actions. People believed that Palmore was angry at women and desired to retaliate against them due to his perception of their inherent allure and promiscuity that accompanies aging. Because of the strange things he said, Palmore's good alibi left the detectives torn between their suspicions. Palmore allowed the daughter of a band leader, who was an undercover police officer, to collect hair from the jazz group members a few weeks later. This was for a makeup class project on hair analysis. The Center for Forensic Sciences received samples for testing. Despite the hair on Christine's chain breaking down over time, it was still considered to be a match for Palmore's sample. The officers released a drawing that resembled him. Palmore was stopped and charged with killing Christine Jessup on his way to band practice on April 22, 1985. He could not believe what was going on, and he was so surprised. At first, he believed it was a routine traffic stop due to his failure to wear his seatbelt, but he quickly grasped the gravity of the situation. The officers informed him that he had been imprisoned for the murder of Christine Jessup. Palmore asked if they were kidding, clearly expressing surprise and disbelief. However, it was not a mistake. The cops were confident in the righteousness of their actions. Palmore's trial for killing Christine began on January 7, 1986. The prosecution built their case against him on hard-to-believe evidence, such as a cigarette butt and strange red fibers that supposedly connected Christine to Palmore's car. Later, it was revealed that the technician who tested the fibers wore a red sweater instead of a lab coat, as indicated by an unidentified letter. According to the Moran family, Palmore's late arrival at home at 5:30 p.m. on October 3, 1984, dealt another blow to the prosecution's case. After work, he took a different route to get food and gas, they said. The case against Palmore started to fall apart with these problems. Palmore's life would never be the same, despite the weak proof. A guilty verdict of murder in the first degree was reached, and he was sentenced to life in jail. However, another appeal was made, and a new hearing commenced in May 1990. The Center for Forensic Sciences had a lot of missing records, notes, and samples, and the proof remained weak. However, they threw out Palmore's sentence in the end due to insufficient evidence to justify keeping him in jail. He was released from jail, and his record got cleared. The court had put Palmore through a long and difficult time, causing him to suffer. However, the public forgave him for the wrongful accusation and conviction that had destroyed his life. No one ever solved the Jessup case, so the mystery of Christine's sad death remained. Detective Steve Smith from the Toronto Police Force initiated his investigation into the cold case in 2019. He thought the new area of forensic genealogy could be a big step forward. Smith sent Christine's underwear DNA to Othram Incorporated, a company specializing in genetic testing, for analysis. The results we received in December 2019 were not as good as we had hoped. Only 2 hits that were far away were found in the DNA database. With the help of genealogists, Smith persevered and narrowed down the family line to about 400 names. A man called Calvin Hoover finally became the focus. Hoover was born in Toronto in 1956. Eastern Independent Telecom employed him, and through this job, he came into contact with the Jessup family. The investigators discovered that Hoover had overheard Janet mentioning her intention to visit Bob in jail. Then he realized that he could execute his crazy plan. He took Christine on October 3, 1984. She and the whole town were very upset. Calvin Hoover experienced various challenges in his own life, such as bankruptcy, anxiety, depression, and bipolar disorder. He killed himself in 2015, and he took with him the dark secrets of Christine's death. Despite Hoover being deceased, the investigators managed to obtain blood samples from him and conduct genetic testing, which unequivocally established his guilt. After almost 40 years of doubt, the Jessup family found peace of mind when the DNA match proved Hoover's involvement in the crime. Those who had been hurt by the tragedy felt a sense of peace and closure at the end of the case. However, it also served as a frightening reminder that evil can lurk in unexpected places. Figuring out how Christine got into the car and whether she was forced or persuaded to do so posed a challenge for investigators and people in the community. The case's resolution was delayed due to insufficient evidence, unreliable witnesses, and the absence of modern forensic tools such as DNA testing. New clues started to show up, and the truth began to come out only when genetic genealogy came along. Canadian history is still haunted by the Jessup case. A wrong judgment can be devastating, and people work hard to find out the truth.